What's up, Eagles fans? Welcome into the All-22 review driven by AAA. I'm Fran Duffy, joined by NFL Film senior producer Greg Cosell. The Eagles fall 27-20. Disappointing loss here against the Dallas Cowboys at home in prime time on Sunday Night Football. We've got some of the top plays. We'll break down exactly what happened here in this game. Well, Greg, let's start things off here with the very first play from scrimmage for this Eagles defense. And we did have a couple questions in terms of how they would line up. It got answered on the very first play. The Eagles in nickel with 5 defensive backs on the field. Who would be the slot corner? It is the rookie, Avonte Maddox.
Yeah, he's in the slot because the Cowboys are in what we call 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers on the field. And the very first play of the game, we also saw what the Eagles decided to do from a coverage standpoint. They play a coverage that is sort of part of their repertoire. It's what we call quarter, half, or cover 6. And they're playing the halves to the short side of the field, and you do that because you don't want the half safety to have that much room to have to defend. And it's Rasul Douglas right here down at right corner, and that's Amari Cooper down there as well. Now they're playing quarters to the wide side of the field because that has a man-to-man element to it, so you're okay with a safety playing to the wide side of the field.
Sure.
So that was the coverage here, and we can start running it, and you're going to see on this first play of the game, Dak Prescott is looking down below to Amari Cooper, right here. But see, Douglas, to me, does a really good job. And the reason I say that, Fran, there's no threat in the flat. Now, he's technically responsible for the flat,
sure,
but there's no threat there. So why just sit there and let Cooper get behind you? He does a nice job of carrying him a little bit, so there's no throw for Dak Prescott.
No question. And with a guy with his length,
exactly,
you're also going to deter some of those throws over the top.
No question. So he does a really nice job. And then when you combine that with the initial rush by Fletcher Cox, who sort of pushes Prescott to climb the pocket, you end up with a sack, and we can run it right here. And we'll see that they get the sack. But as you know, Fran, and we've talked about this many times, about pass rush versus a mobile quarterback, there's more elements to this than just the sack. So what do we have? Point out Fletcher Cox, if you don't mind. He's right there. He's going to get a nice rush on Xavier Su'a-Filo, and he's going to push up the field, which what that does is it forces Prescott to have to climb the pocket. But what's the critical thing with a mobile quarterback?
You got to be able to contain your rush lanes.
Your outside rushers can't run past him up the field and give him room, space, green grass in front of him. They have to stay either even with him or lower than him. They can't go higher. And the Eagles do a really nice job with both Michael Bennett and Brandon Graham, and we can run this and you'll see exactly what happens. You'll see that Prescott is forced to step up, climb the pocket because of Cox, and there's Graham. Bennett's there as well, but Graham gets the sack. They clean up, do it beautifully.
Yeah, I know that's something that Chris Wilson, the defensive line coach for the Eagles, really harps on, is having levels to the rush, and that's a good example of that. You have Fletcher Cox exploding upfield. The DNs are able to clean up over top.
Absolutely.
So the two teams go back and forth. The Eagles now down by a touchdown midway through the third quarter, Greg, and we're going to see the first third down conversion for this Eagles offense in the game. A critical throw, big-time throw here from Carson Wentz to Jordan Matthews. Show us what we're seeing here on the screen.
And they've been a lot better on third down in recent weeks, but in this game I believe they were 0 for 5 or 0 for 6 up to this point. And what they do here, point out if you would, Fran, if you don't mind, where Jordan Matthews is in the slot. And this is a concept that the Eagles use frequently, a lot of teams use. It's what we call return motion. So he starts one way and just comes right back. And the reason teams do this is they want to get a man zone indicator. Because what's going to happen here is Anthony Brown, who's the slot corner, he's going to start running with Matthews. Because if it's man coverage, because if Matthews were to run totally across the formation, he has him man-to-man. So we can start this, and you can see it's going to be man. And what this is going to be is what we call two-man coverage with 2 deep safeties. So if you run this right now and freeze it about here, what you see the 2 deep safeties. This is what we call two-man coverage. 2 deep safeties, man across the board. Very basic. It's a coverage everybody has in their defensive playbook. But the reason we froze it here, why do we do this? Because of the leverage right here. You see Anthony Brown, he's playing to his help. He's inside leverage now. So what happens is Jordan Matthews knows that, so he wants to make sure he just works inside, threaten him there because he's going to break to the sideline. And the other factor is Carson Wentz knows this. It's man now. Right down here, that corner is going to run with the receiver, so he knows because it's man that that won't be a factor at all. So he basically now knows that he has Jordan Matthews, and we can release this, unfreeze it, and you can see, and this was a big-time throw. Well-timed, good anticipation, an excellent third down conversion.
Yeah, what's great about that is that the concept itself, the two routes working together, can beat man or zone.
Man or zone.
I think really the big thing is once Jordan Matthews realizes that it's man coverage, he's going to stick that route a little bit more and make sure he tries to lose that underneath defender.
Absolutely. You're right. It's a good zone route, too, because it's essentially a 3-level stretch, which works very well against zone.
All right, so let's look at the touchdown now to Zach Ertz. We talked about the use of pre-snap motions to give Carson Wentz man-zone indicators before the snap. We see that here on this play with Zach Ertz here, Greg. Show us what we're seeing here before the snap.
Well, here's Zach Ertz right now, and they have 12 personnel, meaning 2 tight ends, because that's Zach Ertz and that's Dallas Goedert right there on the line of scrimmage. So what they're going to do here is take Ertz, and they're going to motion him across the formation. Okay, so let's now show the motion itself. Now notice no one runs with them. All they do is shift a little bit, but no one runs with them. So if you freeze it right here, what that tells Carson Wentz, high probability that this is a zone concept and not a man concept. And in fact, that's what it will turn out to be.
And again, just for the people at home, that would be because if someone ran with him, that would be in man coverage.
Yes.
If you're a man coverage and your guy moves, you're going to run with him.
You go with him.
Exactly.
Right.
All right,
so this is a zone concept. You see a single high safety. So single high zone is cover 3 almost all the time. So now what you have another element to this play is you're going to have the play action, because what they're going to do is they want to send Ertz right down the seam. So now if you're going to send him right down the seam, who is the defender that has to be threatened and impacted? And that's Jalen Smith, that linebacker. You do not want him, as soon as the ball snapped, just dropping right into that passing lane and taking away the seam. So how do you impact him? You impact him with play action in the backfield. And all you need in the NFL is you just need him to hold for half a beat. Yep. He doesn't have to run into the line of scrimmage. He just has to have his eyes in the backfield and hold for half a beat. And if we run it now, you'll see that's exactly what happens. And if you freeze it right about here, you can see, look where his eyes are. His eyes are in the backfield, and he's not looking at Ertz at all. And Ertz will run down the seam because the corner is playing outside in cover 3. That's his third. So what you get now is the deep safety there in the middle of the field. You get Ertz running clean down the seam. Smith eyes in the backfield. Let's finish the play out. Beautifully designed touchdown in the red zone. Really well done.
So the Cowboys now go back, score a touchdown. So the Eagles now down by 7. Once again, they have the ball, and they get a big play here from Carson Wentz to Nelson Aguilar down the field to help set up a touchdown. Greg, tell us what we're seeing here on this play.
Well, what it is, it's 11 personnel, what I like to call a 1-by-3 set, because the 1 is the tight end. So that's Zach Ertz down as the single receiver to the boundary. Nelson Aguilar is the inside slot to trips. Okay, so what they're trying to do is get Nelson Aguilar on what we call a deep over route. Now, this is going to end up, even though it looks now like a 2-shell split safety coverage, it's going to become cover 3 because Jeff Heath is going to drop down as kind of a deep, what we call hook to curl defender. But now, because of where he's playing, he's going to have to run with Nelson Aguilar's deep over route. You like that matchup if you're the Eagles. So let's run it, and you'll see exactly what happens. You'll see that Heath will start to drop down. Here he comes. He's staring at Aguilar because he knows that he has to deal with that. So right there, that's what you're looking for. Even though it's a zone concept, someone has to run with vertical routes. You can't let vertical routes run clean. So the Eagles are very happy with that. That's what they wanted.
No
so
question.
If we clear this.
And they're real quick, too.
Oh, yeah, good point.
You have this corner occupied. He's not going to be able to cover that deep third because you have the vertical route from Zach Ertz.
That's exactly right, because technically the ball's caught in the deep third of Jones, but Ertz controls him with a vertical route. So now if you let this play, you'll see that Aguilar gets on top of Jeff Heath, which you expect, a receiver versus a safety. Great throw, great catch, ball is in the tight red zone.
So that big play to Aguilar, Greg, sets up a touchdown to Zach Ertz. The two teams went back and forth here in the fourth quarter, changing touchdowns. The Eagles just fall short now, fall 27-20 here to the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Closing thoughts here from this game?
You know, a couple of things stand out. These are not really X and O points, but I think what stands out is their offense has been a little slow at times to get going, and they pick up as the game progresses, but they're not scoring the points they did a year ago. They're not jumping out ahead. And I think defensively,
the opposite almost.
Right. Well, exactly. Right. Defensively, while the numbers may look good on the stat sheet overall, when you look at where they stand in league rankings, clearly the offense has struggled. The defense has struggled in the fourth quarter of a lot of games and caused some issues, and it's caused some losses, and that's why the record right now is 4-5.
No question. So 4-5 now. You and I will be talking about the matchup coming up with the New Orleans Saints here on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast. Yep. So you can keep an eye out for that on Monday night if you subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. If not, Tuesday morning on PhiladelphiaEagles.com. But for Greg Cosell, I'm Fran Duffy. Tough loss here for the Eagles. We'll be breaking that down and previewing this week's matchup against New Orleans Saints all week. We'll see you next time here on the All-22 Review, driven by AAA.